A simple sheet of A4 paper has become the symbol of resistance for thousands in communist China. Are these protests only about pandemic lockdowns, or are they a sign of things to come? And can they help you learn English in just 15 minutes? Find out right now on English News Worth Talking About. Hello, and welcome to English News Worth Talking About. I'm Dennis Wilborn, the former sailor turned entrepreneur, English coach, and founder of All About English. If you just have to know what it's all about, then you are in the right place. On this show, I break down some of the most popular news stories chosen by my clients to help you reach your English learning goals faster. You can join me Monday and Friday for a fresh look at the news in English and why it's worth talking about. Be sure to stick around to the end of the show to see what other readers think about today's topic. What is today? Today is December 2nd. It's our first episode of December 2nd, 2022. And we are going back to Ingu for some news that is sweeping the globe. For those of you who haven't heard, Ingu is a great place for materials for English learners, from beginner all the way to advanced, including my favorite, the daily news. Now, before we get started, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode and tap the like button ever so gently. And if you're feeling very generous, you can buy me a cup of coffee because I'm running a little low at the link in the description. Finally, remember to stay until the very end to hear what some other readers thought about the white paper revolution. Now, you may have heard about these protests in China, so let's see what it's all about. I got to share the screen. Yeah, there we go. I keep forgetting to share the screen. The white paper revolution. All right. The topic for today: anti-lockdown protests call for China's Xi to step down. This is an article from a couple of days ago, November 30th, 2022, and it is an advanced article in the Asia and Pacific category. Let's jump right in with vocabulary. The first vocabulary word is drive. Now, I'm not talking about driving a car. I'm talking about driving as in force, to force people or animals to move or leave. Yeah, you never heard of a cattle drive? Yeah, when you watch those old Western movies, yeah, cattle drive. They're driving the cattle from the ranch to the market. Also, we hear about the police doing it. After a few hours, riot police managed to drive out the protesters. Yeah, they must not have been protesting anything that was unacceptable. Or no, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. All right, the next one, we have a phrasal verb. It is step down, to step down, which means to quit or retire from an important position. So in this example, on in July 2021, Jeff Bezos stepped down as Amazon's CEO. Yeah, usually an important person is the one who steps down. You never hear about Joe Schmo, the janitor, stepping down from his very important role as chief sanitation engineer. Yeah, you never hear about that. But all right, moving on. The next one up is chant. Chant, to say or shout a phrase repeatedly. It's a verb and it means to say or shout a phrase repeatedly, like I just did. I'm saying it like a chant. Anyway, as the stage lights dimmed, the audience started chanting the band's name. Yeah, if you've ever been to a concert or something like that, you're going to hear people shouting, I can't think of any bands off the top of my head, but protesters often like to chant things like, hell no, we won't go, or heck no, we won't go. Yeah. What's a popular one these days? No justice, no peace. Yeah, I don't know why they always use that fist. They always use the fist. I think it's actually a communist thing. The fist means we're all united and we're stronger than we are as single fingers. Look it up, see if that's actually true or not. Next one is transmission. Transmission is a noun, the action or process of passing something from one person or thing to another, or the state of being passed. Uh, this is not referring to like the electrical transmission or a radio transmission or a transmission of a broadcast of some time. This is transmission of, well, I guess you could actually be referring to that. But in this case, we're talking about transmission of a disease or something like that. Masks have been shown to be effective at slowing the transmission of COVID-19. That is fake news. Do some research. That's not true. Restrict. To limit, stop, or control something. That's a verb. It's a verb. To limit, stop, or control means to restrict. According to the American Library Association, attempts to ban or restrict books are increasing yearly. Is that right? I'm not so sure about that, but okay. To ban or restrict books. So, to limit or stop or control something. Next one up is censorship. Now, censorship, we can't do a story about China without talking about censorship. And these days, censorship is a hot topic. This is a noun. It is the act of controlling content that is considered inappropriate, offensive, etc. China has long been criticized for its excessive internet censorship. And these days, YouTube and Facebook and several other popular social media sites are also criticized for their excessive internet censorship. But, they also happen to be big fans of China. All right, let's get into this article. The headline, anti-lockdown protests call for China's Xi to step down. Ooh, those are big words. Chinese protesters, angry with strict anti-coronavirus rules, have called for the country's leader to resign, as authorities in at least 8 cities tried to stop demonstrations on Sunday, November 27th. That was, earlier this week. If you haven't been paying attention to the news, it's kind of a big deal. It's been all over the place. The protests are the most widespread show of opposition to the ruling party in decades. On November 27th, police drove away demonstrators in Shanghai who called for President Xi Jinping to step down and for an end to the Chinese Communist Party's one-party rule. But hours later, the protesters returned. Now, remember, the vocabulary word that we said was drive. Here it is in the past tense. Drove. This is an irregular verb. So the past tense of drive is drove. So the police drove away demonstrators. And here is step down. They called for Xi Jinping to step down. This is an interesting one. A video from of the Shanghai protest shows people chanting Xi Jinping step down, CCP step down. That's a pretty good video. I have seen that on Twitter, and I'm sure you can find it on several other places online. Pretty powerful stuff. 3 years after the pandemic began, China is the only major country still trying to stop the transmission of COVID-19. That's it. The only major country still trying to stop the transmission of COVID-19. Its zero COVID strategy has restricted access to neighborhoods for weeks at a time. Some cities test millions of residents for the virus every single day. I know some people in China, and yeah, they do have to be tested every single day. Now, I personally have only done 2 tests in my entire life for this COVID-19. It's really uncomfortable. It's really annoying. I can't even imagine having to do it every day, but I guess you can put up with anything if you do it enough. Now, I don't agree with this. That is the only major country still trying to stop the transmission of COVID-19. Really? The only major country? Last I checked, just the other day, the president of the United States was telling people to get vaccinated and keep boosting up and getting more vaccines and things like that. They're talking about that in Canada as well. As you know, I'm heard about it being talked about in Europe. So I wouldn't say they're the only major country. Now, are they the only major country still doing lockdowns? Yes, for now it appears that they are. Now this has kept China's infection numbers lower than those of the US and other major countries. However, people who are quarantined at home in some areas say they don't have enough food and medicine. It's kind of a problem, isn't it? I don't know if you've seen videos, but I've seen several of doors being welded or locked shut, and people just locked in their homes. Not a pretty sight. The current protests began after a fire on November 24th killed at least 10 people in an apartment building in the city of Urumqi, where some have been locked in their homes for 4 months. Yeah. I have heard that it was at least 10 people, and I have also heard as many as 40 people died in that. It's pretty gruesome stuff. Um, the deaths led to angry questions online about whether firefighters or people trying to escape were blocked by locked doors or other restrictions. Again, if you know where to look, if you're looking in the right places, Twitter is actually a good place to look nowadays because there's not as much censorship as there used to be. You can see videos and see pictures of the locked doors and the fire, and here, yeah, it's pretty gruesome stuff. The Shanghai protests began late on November 26th when about 300 people gathered on a street named after Urumqi, bringing candles, flowers, and signs to remember the victims of the fire. In a park on the east side of Beijing, about 200 people protested by holding up blank pieces of paper, a symbol of opposition to the ruling party's censorship. Speaking of opposition to the ruling party's censorship, now I've seen pictures, I've seen videos of all of these things. There were probably a lot more than 200 people protesting. Yeah. So I would say a lot of this news has probably been filtered through some of the censors in China. Yeah, they mention here 300 people gathered on a street named after Urumqi. I would say that there were probably a lot more than 300 people, probably close to 1,000 or maybe more. About 2,000 students gathered at Tsinghua University in Beijing, and social media posts said there were demonstrations at 50 universities. And that is the end of this story. That's one of the things I love about NGU Daily News. The stories are short, they're easy to read, they're designed just for English learners. Are there lots of questions to be asked at the end of these articles? You bet there are. But these days there's always a lot of questions to be asked anytime you read the news. So always remember to read the news. Don't always believe everything you see, and question everything. That is the section now. Question everything, because asking questions is the best way to learn and improve yourself and the world. So that's why this is the most important segment of this show, in my opinion. So first of all, I am curious, what are your thoughts on the CCP's lockdowns in China and the anti-lockdown protests? I was just talking to a couple of different clients tonight, and one of the main themes that I keep hearing from many people is I can't understand. Wanda, earlier this evening, I wrote this on my notes. I can't understand why China still wants to lock down, especially when everyone else is allowing people to move around and have the freedom to move. Yeah, why the heck are they still locking everything down? Everyone in the West is saying, trust the science, trust the science. Of course, what does that even mean anymore? Because science is so fluid. Unless it's told to you by some expert, you can't trust anything they tell you these days. Science is science. It's meant to be questioned. Science is always about questions. So don't just trust the science. Do your research. There's lots of it out there. So I would love to hear your opinions on why you think CCP is locking down China. Personally, I think that they're doing it mainly for control. they're not really as worried about the virus as the media portrays them to be. Most of this is about controlling the population. They've got these QR codes with the red, the different color codes. If your QR code on your phone turns red, you're in big trouble. You got to go to quarantine camp. And those quarantine camps isn't like sitting in your house or sitting in a nice hotel room. These are really like little prisons. And again, you can see the videos online. Go ahead and check it out. All right. The next question I have, again, leave your comments down in the. I'd love to hear your opinions. Drop your comments in the comment section, or send me a DM if you want to keep it more private. How do you think the CCP will react to these protests? That's a big question. How do you think? What are they going to do next? Now, we've already seen a bit since this article was posted, and that was just yesterday. Just today, they reported that they would be lifting some of the zero COVID restrictions. But at the same time, we've also seen a lot of activity from the so-called big whites in many places too. Now, if you don't know what the big whites are, here's a quick video of the big whites on the march. Hope it's not too noisy. Yeah, that's the big whites right there, and they're pretty organized. They look pretty organized. So, what do you think's going to happen there? Are they going to round people up and send them to the camps? Well, and that was one of those lovely quarantine camps. Look familiar? If it was in black and white, it might. All right, tell me what you think. What do you think their next play is going to be? All right, my final question is pretty simple. Now, there's many people around the world who are speculating on these events. Some wonder if this is just a protest, or if this is the beginning of a big movement or a big revolution. I don't know. I don't know. There are a lot of things that are happening right now. In 1989, many people in China know that something big happened in 1989, but the people in China aren't allowed to know everything. I've talked to many who have never even heard of the Tiananmen Square protests or the massacre that happened in that year after 7 weeks of protesting and millions of people. What's interesting, that it should come up now, just yesterday, the president, the former premier, not president, the former premier of the CCP, Jiang Zemin, was reported as having passed away. And a previous premier passed away just before the big protest that led to the Tiananmen Square massacre. So very interesting that should all kind of fall into place. Let me know what you think. Is this just a little protest, or is it the beginning of something even bigger? Look, at the end of the day, none of us knows exactly what's going to happen. And it's up to you to make up your own mind. So make sure you keep asking questions. Question everything. Now, I would love for you to be more involved with this community, and that means that it starts with hearing your thoughts on these questions. So feel free to send me a comment in the comments down below, or even send me a DM if you don't want to share things publicly on any one of these questions, or ask one or two questions of your own. And I'll begin sharing some of the best answers at the end of each episode. And if you are looking for new ways to ask and answer questions in English, consider joining me for a one-on-one or a group class at Amazing Talker. You'll find the link down in the description. And now it's time to review some of the comments on this article from a few of my own clients. All right, comments and questions. Now, these are comments that came straight from my own clients and students, people who've read this article. Because, as I've said, I am striving to create and build a community here. So here are some of the audience thoughts and questions. First comment comes from Jamie. She writes, the protest has been claimed that foreign forces are interfering in. It's been claimed that foreign forces have been interfering in the protests. Now, she includes a video from Twitter. There's a link down there, and I'm going to show you this video so you can tell me what you think. It's a little bit long. Here we go. We just want freedom, they said. That's right. They just want freedom. Where are the foreign forces from? From the moon? That's a good question. I like what one of them said. The foreign forces are Lenin and Mao and Stalin and Trotsky, all that fun stuff. Yeah. So, you make up your own mind. She says that she goes on to say that the authority will do whatever they have to maintain their stability. So sometimes they may send people into the middle of the crowd dressed in plain clothes to do all kind of things, to point fingers at others. And that can cause some problems. All right, next up, we have Iris. Iris says, she says, some of the news posed this question. I said, the point of views. She says that the death of the former leader just blurred the protest. And now I didn't include her comment, but she mentions that it's someone told her that the former leader actually died while Chairman Xi was at the G20, but they kept it under wraps until just now. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Could be a conspiracy. Could be not. We don't know. And the next one here, finally, we're going to finish up with Mandy. Mandy says, I was wondering why there are so many unreasonable regulations in China, and their people can bear them up until now. So far, I still have no idea. This is the first time I heard their people say they want democracy and rule by law. Also, CCP step down. However, they will eventually be silenced by government violence, just like the June 4th Tiananmen incident. They can't even mention it. That's right. They can't. They cannot mention the June 4th Tiananmen incident in China. It's a shame, because those who don't know history or can't talk about history are doomed to repeat it. So I once read that there's an old Chinese curse that says, may you live in interesting times. I don't know if you feel cursed, but these certainly are interesting times, and only time will tell what will come from all of this. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all the time that we have for today. Don't forget to like and share this show with your friends. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. And always remember, question everything. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget your homework. Share this program with one friend. Hit the subscribe button and try to answer one or more of the questions for a chance to be included in the next video. And click over here to see some news. Click over here for talking tips. And always remember, life is an adventure, and that includes your learning.